I came across some videos on YouTube produced by a guy named Matt D'Avella. He's a kind of self-help life coach filmmaker who produces videos that he posts on YouTube. One of the ones that I found particularly interesting was one entitled "The Reason Most People Are Unhappy." Now, Matt is into minimalism, which, if you don't know what that is, I'll just simply define as living life with the minimum amount of stuff. In this video, he starts off by talking about how he and two other friends of his traveled around the country asking the question, how might your life be better with less? And they talked to experts from the fields of neuroscience, sociology, and psychology, asking the question, what can our understanding of the human mind tell us about the compulsive drive to consume? More importantly, I wanted to know, that is Matt, wanted to know the root of what makes us unhappy. So what Matt is telling us here is this: the root of what makes us unhappy is this compulsive drive to consume. The reason we are unhappy is because we are discontent. Why are we discontent? What are we lacking? Matt talked to a neuroscientist named Rick Hanson. He's the author of two books on happiness, one entitled Hardwired, or Wiring Happiness, and the second, Buddhist Brain. He asked Rick this question: what do you think is the biggest factor for most people's discontent? Let's listen to how he answered that question.
What do you think is the biggest factor for most people's discontent?
Greed. The average lower middle class person in America lives better than Louis XIV. Yet still, even though we have a lot, there's still this looking for something new to want. And I wonder, why is that? I think of that as a kind of biologically based delusional craving. That auto-craving is a good strategy to keep animals alive, including early human animals, in really harsh conditions. But these days, today, it creates a disconnect. You're like a puppet whose strings are being pulled by Mother Nature and evolution, reaching back tens of millions of years. We still feel restless. We still are always scratching and clawing for more.
The question Matt asked Rick was, what do you think is the biggest factor for most people's discontent? And the answer was one word: greed. Rick said the average lower middle class American lives better than Louis XIV. Yet still, though we have a lot, there's always this something new to want. It's a biologically based delusional craving. You're like a puppet whose strings are being pulled by Mother Nature and evolution, reaching back tens of millions of years. It's a biologically based delusional craving. It's something inherent in us. It's part of us. And so the question is now then, is there anything we can do to overcome this biological craving? Let's go look at the tape again and see how Rick answers that question.
So what can you do? According to Rick, humans have three basic needs: safety, satisfaction, and connection. When we check off, and most importantly, internalize all three, things start to change.
When we register that our three core needs are met, when we really feel safe, authentically safe, when we really feel that there's an enoughness in our life in terms of our needs for satisfaction, and when we really feel liked enough and loved enough, and that we have a good heart ourselves, we're loving ourselves, when we feel that, the basis for craving for more, maximalism, the basis for that falls away, because you already feel deeply safe. and all right now in this moment. You start feeling increasingly and unconditionally satisfied in this moment because you've repeatedly internalized experiences of satisfaction. Same way, you start feeling increasingly related. And so then you engage life on the basis of feeling already safe, already satisfied, already connected. And when you do that, you're much harder to manipulate with the ancient drumbeats of fear. Threat level orange this, alien invaders that. You're much harder to manipulate through consumerism because you already feel full. You don't need to get that extra goodie to feel like you've got enough because you already feel like you have enough on the inside out.
So according to Rick Hanson, humans have three basic needs: safety, satisfaction, and connection. And as Matt says, when we check off and, more importantly, internalize all three, things start to change. The question is, how do I internalize these three things? How is it that I can really feel that I'm safe, feel authentically safe, as Hanson says? How is it that I can really feel enoughness, truly feel satisfied? How is it that I can truly feel connected, that I can feel that I am loved by others and respected by others, that I can love others, and that my life has some significance? Matt goes on to tell us this in the video: knowing this truth alone won't change your life. Any massive change requires more than just understanding. It takes a daily practice to be mindful and grateful for the lives we have. We need to remind ourselves, this is good advice. We need a daily practice to remind ourselves and to be grateful for the lives that we have, the safety, the satisfaction, the connection. But there is a problem. What if we aren't safe? What if we aren't satisfied and connected? You see, the truth is, you can only be truly mindful. You can only be truly mindful of and grateful for that which you really have. If you don't really have it, then you're just trying to convince yourself. You're trying to talk yourself into an attitude or a feeling or emotion that really has no basis. Massive change requires, as Matt said, more than understanding, but it also requires more than the daily practice of being mindful and grateful. It requires massive change. Now, Rick Hanson said that we have this biologically based delusional craving. And if by biological he means that it's inherent in all humans, that we all have this craving and that it's inherent in us, then I think he's right. But when he calls it a delusional craving, there I take some exception. You see, the craving that we have is very real. It's not a delusion. And what we are craving for is also something that is very real, not delusional. And this craving can really be met. It's not just a delusion. Centuries ago, the godly Christian bishop or author Augustine recognized this craving in his own heart and in the hearts of people around him. And in his Confessions, he expressed it like this in a prayer: "Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee." You see, it is God and God alone who can meet these basic needs, who can truly make us safe, truly satisfy us, and truly connect us to love and to life and to eternity, to give us lasting value. We were created for him, and only he can meet this great need. Safety, satisfaction, connection. God can meet those needs, and when he does, you see, then contentment and happiness are the genuine fruit of our experience with and in him. We're not trying to convince ourselves that we should be safe or feel satisfied or are connected. It is a reality. It is God in and with us, and therefore, then, happiness and contentment are the fruit of that experience, of that relationship with God. One of the most well-known scriptures is Psalm 23. Unfortunately, it's so well known, and yet the reality behind, or what it talks about, is so unknown that it's rarely taken seriously. But we need to take it seriously. I want you to think about these questions and to read and to think over Psalm 23. First, start off with just basic questions. Does God really exist? I mean, he's not just something in your head or in your heart, but he is real. Secondly, does God really, is he personal? Is he a shepherd? Does he want to shepherd me? Does he want to be my shepherd? Can I really have, the quality of relationship with God that David describes in this psalm? As I read over this psalm for you, and then hopefully as you go back and you meditate on this psalm and pray about this psalm, notice how in the psalm God meets the three basic needs that Hansen identifies: safety, satisfaction, connection. Let me read this psalm for you. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Let me read Rick Hansen's words to you again in conclusion. When we register that our three core needs are met, when we really feel safe, authentically safe, when we really feel there's an enoughness in our life in terms of our need for satisfaction, when we really feel liked enough and loved enough, and that we have a good heart ourselves, we're loving ourselves. When we feel that, the basis for craving for more, maximalism, the basis for that falls away. So then you engage life on the basis of feeling already safe, already satisfied, already connected. And when you do that, you're much harder to manipulate through fear. You're much harder to manipulate through consumerism. You already feel full from the inside out.